Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. The topic of this 10-minute moan is something I've done a live on earlier on today, and this is an edited version of that to share as a normal video. And it's my concerns over the new information that's just been disclosed that those arriving illegally via dinghies are 25 times more likely to end up in prison than the normal indigenous people of the United Kingdom. And I find that absolutely astounding, but not surprised. The reason for it is I've been there and seen it with my own eyes, and the people who are coming over are ditching passports, don't want to know who they are, all this stuff. And the other thing that didn't hit me until I went down to Dover and then over to Cali a fortnight ago was the fact that the numbers that we are told, and it's just under 2,000 for the last 3 recorded days, that's only through one entry. That is, the ones that we pick up the dinghies by our border force and bring them into Cali, and in effect give them a free water taxi. That's 2,000 over the last 3 recorded days, up to the 1st of June. And that totally forgets, if you look to your left from up the hill where you can see these people arrive, over to your left, there's a big massive ferry port, and some still come in there. Stowaways, people coming over with a passport and suggesting they're here on holiday and just don't go home. It doesn't count to people. I look to my right and I see miles of beaches where there's still people coming under the cover of darkness and landing illegally there. Doesn't count anybody flying here and just no bothering going home in any airport across the United Kingdom. And the figures are absolutely mental. But this 24 times more likely to end up in prison is purely for the ones arriving in boats. The true figures will be even more astounding. So what happened? I'm going to show you a small interview that GB News done to give you some more insight into this and describe it better than I can. So if you give us 1 second, I'll just get this lined up. Maximise that.
In the studio now, thank you very much. Is this a partial victory? It's only foreign criminals awaiting deportation that we're going to get the data on, as we understand it.
Well, I've been campaigning for over a year now for full transparency, for the publication of data on all those who commit crime in our country by their nationality, their visa status and their asylum status, because I think it's incredibly important the public know the truth about low-skilled mass migration and the impact that it's having on our country and communities, and also that we actually do something about it and tailor our immigration system accordingly to protect the British public. It's very welcome that something is happening, but this looks like a massively watered-down version of what I've been campaigning for and what I tried to change the law to be just over a year ago. This looks like it will not shine the light that we really need on everyone who's in our country who isn't a British national and who's committing crime. And the statistics are very clear on that. You know, the indicative data that we've seen shows that an Afghan or an Eritrean, for example, are 20 times more likely to commit a sexual crime than a British national. And overall, foreigners are 71% more likely to commit a sex crime than a British national. That is the kind of data that we need finally to be.
If it is as we suspect, as has been reported, that it is those just scheduled for deportation, the vast majority of those are Albanians, Eastern Europeans. It will not show, as we understand it then, people from various Middle Eastern countries, which frankly a lot of people are most concerned about, given the occupants in a lot of those migrant hotels, maybe where they live.
Well, the indicative data that we have seen, mainly that's been dragged out of requests by campaigners, shows that there are massive disparities in the likelihood of committing crime, particularly sex crimes, from certain nationalities. And as you say, not in every case, but in many cases, they tend to be countries in Africa or the Middle East where some people just don't share our values. And so if this data is not going to shine a light on that, then it's going to be woefully inadequate. And the question everyone will be asking is, what's being hidden here? Why does the Ministry of Justice, why does the Home Office, why does the government not want to be completely transparent? Are they trying to hide something, or don't think that the public are capable of understanding what they're going to see?
Well, you must feel as though you've really had to wrestle this out of them, really. I mean, we did a piece here on GB News where we offered to even pay for the manpower that it would take for them to reveal all of this information, and they decided not to. Is there a concern, do you think, that what it might reveal would just be too shocking for the public to handle?
Well, we have had to absolutely drag this out of government. I tabled an amendment just over a year ago to the then criminal justice bill that was supported by GB News and by some of your presenters like Jacob Rees-Mogg and Miriam Kate and many others, some of whom are now in reform, some are Conservative members of Parliament. And it's taken all this time to get to this point, which doesn't even sound like this is the end of our campaign. It's just the end of the beginning. I think there was a conspiracy of silence where people within the system didn't want to present the full, unalloyed truth to the public, perhaps because people would be absolutely that mass migration, particularly of low-skilled, low-wage people, particularly from some parts of the world with attitudes towards women and girls that are antithetical to our own, alien to our own cultures, were really fueling crime, particularly sex crimes. We've seen that through the data that has got into the public domain. We've seen it anecdotally. Now it is so important that we get that data out and that we actually do something about it. And what I want to see is not just outrage, but we channel that into action, and that we change our immigration system so that we are much more careful about who comes into this country. And if there are some nationalities where the statistics demonstrate beyond any doubt that those individuals are far, far more likely to be committing crimes, hurting our people, then clearly we should be much more judicious about giving them visas, giving them rights to come into this country.
So that was it. Some shocking figures there, but I don't think anybody would be that surprised. It's kind of where we would be. These people coming in, particularly by the boats, particularly the ones that have to come in here illegally because they don't want to tell us who they are more likely to commit crimes. And you and I, when we voice... What the hell are we getting here? I've got something playing some silly music. I don't know what that is. I genuinely don't know what that is. I've got some Scottish type music I'm playing. Let me just close that tab and it's finished. Sorry about that. What was I saying? Yeah, if people like you and I talk out about this and suggest that you're concerned about things like this, you get brandished as far-right, Islamophobic, racist, fascist, all this nonsense. And what we need, and this is something I learned, the penny dropped with me when I went to Ballymena, people over there are the exact same issue, that we need to even believe and think that we're getting listened to when we have proper concerns about the GB public. And it just baffles me that we get brandished all these mad things all the time. And it's proper nonsense. I think I'm having problems with... Can you see the mic all right? Mic all right too, if they can. I seem to be getting gremlins in the system. And that's got to change, because when that doesn't change, when the public genuinely feel that they've got concerns that are not being listened to, then they start protesting and then they start doing things and end up like what happened in Ballymena. And the things I believe everybody has the same concerns over are immigration's too high, safety of our children, safety of our females, knife crime, lack of decent housing, all this stuff. And it's just nonsense, absolutely nonsense. We know there's somebody saying it's died. Can somebody give me a number 1 on the comments if they can hear me, please? Right, brilliant. It's okay now. Yeah, this mic for some reason just turned off. So that's kind of where we are. And that's why we're likely to have more protests and more possibly lead to other things happening in the streets, because we feel we're not getting listened to and just brandished idiots. So that's kind of where we are. How do we stop it? It's dead easy. We put in things in place to stop it and make it not as attractive for these people. And I feel sorry for genuine asylum seekers. I keep telling the story about Barack, who's a young boy from Congo. Well, he's never even been to Congo. He was born in a refugee camp because his mother and father had to rush away from Congo with a civil war. I think it was Rwanda, funnily enough, they ended up in. He was born in there. He was never, I think it was a 2-mile camp. He was never outside that 2-mile camp until he was 14 and managed to get refuge here. Now, every single person that comes in a boat illegally or comes in a plane and doesn't go home or comes as a stowaway, they actually just put these people further down the queue. If you enjoyed the video, click the thumbs up, hit the like, hit the share button. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. And, most important thing of all, unless you're the type of person who brings these people here, thinks it's wonderful that they're here, tells me I'm far-right, racist, Islamophobe for kind of saying I don't want them here, then not you.
Everyone else, have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.